I'm going to walk through an example of using the 7 Eyes framework to communicate about climate change. So imagine you're a ranger or an environmental educator working in the Park Service, and you have an opportunity to speak with people about climate change when they visit your park. You could think through this framework to identify what the real challenge is with the people you are engaging. Is it that they don't notice or attend to your risk information? If so, you can think about what aspects of exposure, vulnerability, or severity might be most critical for them to hear. It's unlikely to be what the risks of climate change are to the park that they're visiting, but it is likely to be what their personal exposure, vulnerability, and severity will be in their community. Um, you might see that people are really asking questions about your risk information. And here you might want to be prepared to answer those frequently asked questions that people have about climate change. Well, how can we know the climate is changing when it was just really cold yesterday? So explaining the difference between weather and climate. It might be that you're not the right source to have that conversation, and you might want to point them to resources that are more in line with people that they already trust. It could be that you're trying to inform them that they really need those beliefs to be changed and a new perspective is needed. You might want to use emotional appeals or talk about the benefits to others of their engagement in the climate fight. It might be that people have a facet of their identity that's invoked by even talking about climate change. We know that there are certain trigger words based on people's ideology that can be problematic. So maybe instead of talking about climate change, you talk about changing weather patterns. You ask people to reflect on what they've seen change over their lifetime. And again, you might want to point them to a different source that they are more likely to trust. If you're engaging with people who really are aware of what's going on with climate change and they've already changed their beliefs in line with wanting to take action, you might need to help them form a general or a specific plan to act on that risk information. We know that when people have a written plan to take action, they're much more likely to follow through than not having a plan at all, or even having a plan just up in their head. You might know, or you might notice that the people you're engaging, again, are elsewhere on this framework. They really just want to follow through on their intentions and act on your risk information. In this case, a lot of behavioral science says that you've got to make it easy. You've got to perhaps be prepared to point out the easy ways that they can take action. What are the little things that they could do at home in their daily life that might be doable that would make them feel like they're helping to take on the climate fight? And finally, you might have someone who's already doing a lot of things on their own, but they're really excited to share with others, to encourage other people to act on the risk information that you're providing. And you might have a different strategy for how you engage those. You might talk about how they need to identify the values that they share with others and to really talk about the impacts of climate change on those shared values in order to make those connections and have that influence.